obviously this was my first foray into the legal system. I've never been arrested before or in trouble with the law. And my first taste of the Canadian justice system is in Ottawa, for sure, because Ottawa is
Yeah,
different. Let's just face it. It's a
for
different
sure.
mentality out there.
Yeah.
It was really disappointing. I mean, all of these institutions that I believed were set up in place to help me, to help regular Canadians, to give us a voice, to give us a way to protect ourselves, turned out to be false. They are not there to protect us. They are there to protect their own skin, as we saw. And throughout the convoy, and to this day, what you see is a government that is wrong, knows it's wrong, but continues to dig its heels in just to try to save a little face, to the detriment of the rest of Canada.
And I don't think we should forget about the co-conspirators with the government in all of this, and that's the mainstream media. The
Yes.
rise of the independent journalist really happened during the Freedom Convoy. I know it was when a lot of people found Rebel News for the first time. And it was because they couldn't count on the mainstream media to just go stand in the street of Ottawa, a place wriggling with journalists. They couldn't just go stand in the street and point to camera. Don't even give commentary, just point to camera and show people what's happening. They couldn't do that in Ottawa. And the reason they couldn't do it is because it would bust the federal government's narrative. And when you're getting all your money from the federal government, well, it's a
The office of the
protectionist
CBC
racket. Yeah.
The office of the CBC was, I think Rodney Palmer said it best. It would have taken them longer to walk to their vehicles in the parking lot than it would have been for them to come down to Parliament Hill and talk to Canadians.
Yep.
So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank goodness for independent media like Rebel News, True North at the time, and the citizen journalists that came out and actually talked to Canadians and got the footage that was on the ground. And I heard from a lot of people that literally went to Ottawa because of what they were seeing on TV and how it was completely opposite from what they were seeing coming through on these live streams. And a lot of them drove to Ottawa to see for themselves. And when they got there, they realized that the mainstream media was lying.
We've got
Oh,
John
listen,
Carpay on the call with us right now. I want to bring John in because um, I think do we have the decision in yet? John Carpay is with the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. He's just jumped onto the call. Sorry to cut you short there, Chris.
no worries.
Bring us up
He
to
looks like he's
speed
got a
on
lot to say. I can't wait.
I see him just.
Just
Morning,
looking,
John.
can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, John. Thank you
Yes.
so much for joining us.
Conclusion, paragraph 506. In light of the above reasons, we are of the opinion that the appeals by the Attorney General of Canada in files blah, 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 blah should be dismissed, as should be the cross appeals by the Canadian Civil Liberties Association and the Canadian Constitution Foundation, since neither the Attorney General nor the public interest litigants have requested costs, none will be awarded. So the lower court ruling is affirmed. I haven't read the preceding 505 paragraphs, but
Right.
paragraph 506 says that the appeal of the Attorney General in files blah, 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 blah should be dismissed.
Awesome.
Oh gosh.
Awesome.
Tamara and Chris, how are you guys feeling right now?
Relief.
I think you're crying.
I'm not going to cry. I'm not crying today.
And all three, it's unanimous. All
What a
three
relief.
judges, all
Okay,
three
let's bring
judges
it
signed on.
Good.
Oh, that
There's
was
some
excellent.
justice in Canada. Thank you. Thank you. John,
Thank you.
appreciate all you guys have done to put into this, please. If it wasn't for the JCCF and, like you said, Democracy Fund, we wouldn't be in this position right now. So thanks and kudos to all
Yeah.
those.
Well, kudos
Absolutely.
to
I
all the
shudder to
donors,
think where we
right?
would be.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. John, tell us about the Justice Center's role in all of this, because you've done such important work holding the government to account. You're really the driving organization behind this. You are crowdfunded. So I want to make sure that you get the credit that you're due in upholding the civil rights of Canadians in this country. And if you can, please explain to the viewers what this means going forward and what it would mean if the government had won this appeal.
Well, this ruling is super, super important because it said that the federal government failed to meet the necessary requirements of the Emergencies Act. There are several requirements, including that local law enforcement cannot handle the situation, that it's a serious threat to national security, neither of which was true, because when the Emergencies Act was invoked, we were down to a local protest only in Ottawa. It was peaceful. Local law enforcement hadn't, as was pointed out by Tamara yesterday on a live stream, neither she nor Chris Barber was arrested under the emergencies measures. They were arrested pursuant to ordinary law enforcement. So this was a really important accountability check that a court said to the Prime Minister Trudeau and the federal government, you guys were wrong. You didn't comply with the legislation which says that you can only use emergency powers when there's a bona fide national emergency and other law enforcement mechanisms are not going to work. So that's just really, really important for the sake of accountability, for the sake of preventing or at least slowing down our slide towards becoming a police state, because that's what we're on track with right now with all the bad bills in Parliament, but I won't get into that right now. So if the court today had allowed the federal government's appeal, it would just be giving a green light to tyranny and saying, yeah, the government can just, if the government feels like there's an emergency, doesn't matter what the facts are, you can just go ahead and do it. And that's actually this government, they were even talking about that the requirements were too high. The government should be able to find an economic emergency and invoke emergency powers, because the economy is doing poorly. So I'm thrilled. Good precedent.
Yes, I am thrilled too. So, John, nobody has a crystal ball. Now the federal government basically has been proven wrong. What do you expect, or would you anticipate the next steps from the Liberal government are going to be in this proceedings? Do you think they're going to appeal this, or?
They would need to get the Supreme Court's permission first, which is true for everybody. It's not just the federal government. Mm-hmm. But if you want the Supreme Court of Canada to hear an appeal, first you say, would you please, you don't just file it and get your appeal heard as you would ordinarily. So it's a two-step process. So first, the federal government would have to go to the Supreme Court and ask if they would please hear the appeal. In order to win on that application, they have to show that there is an unresolved doctrine of law that the Supreme Court should address, because there's a lack of clarity in the law. And that happens from time to time, right? You get different provinces come out, courts in different provinces have contradictory rulings, so the Supreme Court resolves it. So I would say the federal government's chance of getting this heard by the Supreme Court appear to be pretty small, because I don't know what they're going to say is some doctrine of law that Canadians are clamoring to get clarity on. This is kind of a one-time decision. Did the federal government comply with the Emergencies Act? Yes or no? This is a very fact-specific decision. So that's another reason. The Supreme Court would probably look at this and go, well, the judge made a decision based on the facts as to whether or not the federal government met the criteria it was supposed to have met. And anyway, so the federal government could appeal it. The other side, our side, we could appeal it. But I would say the chance of this going into the Supreme Court is small, in my view.
Mm-hmm. So what does this mean for
And so I understand, well, and we're one of them. There's a lot of lawsuits before the courts, or that will be before the courts, about the bank account seizures. And Chris and I are one of them. Keith Wilson is representing us on that matter. So what is that going to mean for people like us and other people that have filed lawsuits against the government for the unconstitutional and illegal, not to mention Banana Republic style freezing of the bank accounts of 208 innocent Canadians?
It's good news for you and other people, because the lower court said that the freezing of the bank accounts was unjustified, and that can only help other Canadians in a civil claim. I'm not sure if I would go so far as to say that guarantees you success in other court actions, but it's very, very helpful that we have a lower court ruling now affirmed by the Federal Court of Appeal that the freezing of the bank accounts was not justified. It was an unjustified violation of the charter right to be free from unreasonable search and seizure. So it's just very, very positive. Again, without necessarily guaranteeing victory in other court actions, it's really good to have this as a precedent that you can say, hey, here's the Federal Court of Appeal of Canada, which is on par with the Ontario, BC, Alberta Courts of Appeal, one of the many second highest courts in the land, has said that the freezing of the bank accounts was an unjustified violation of your constitutional rights.
Mm-hmm.
So, John, how do people support the work that the Justice Center is doing? Because it's very clear the federal government, they either want to put this completely behind them and just pretend like it didn't happen, or they want to erase all memory of what they've done here. But at the Justice Center, you guys continue to fight on behalf of Canadians to make sure that their rights are affirmed and the violations of the rights that somebody is held to account during COVID. So how do people find out about the work that you're doing, maybe get some help, or help get involved in the fight?
Yeah, we always remain extremely busy. So we're funded by voluntary donations from Canadians. We've got about 10 lawyers from coast to coast. I think we'll be hiring another 1 or 2 more as soon as possible, because we've had some good support in 2025. So we have some room for that. And so we have dozens of court cases all over Canada in support of the freedoms of expression, association, religion, conscience, peaceful assembly, bodily autonomy, movement, travel, all of our charter rights and freedoms. And in terms of this ruling, it seems to be over, but at least unless the Supreme Court chooses to hear an appeal, which I think is unlikely. And so in February next month, we are sending out 10,000 tax receipts to all the people that donated in 2025. And we're always looking for new donors, because sometimes the older ones, they die or they lose interest or whatever. There's always a natural attrition. So if anybody wants to donate to the Justice Center, our website is www.jccf.ca. So Justice Center Constitutional Freedoms, jccf.ca. And that money will go, not in relation to this case, of course, but our ongoing work to defend freedom in Canada.
Yeah, and I think you're never going to have a shortage of work, particularly as long as the Liberals are in power. They seem particularly spiteful when it comes to people who disagree with them, just like what they tried to do with Chris. It wasn't enough that, they criminalized his peaceful protest, but then they tried to take his livelihood just because they thought they could.
But that's a broader cultural problem, because it was the Crown prosecutors in Ontario that decided to spend hundreds of thousands, I don't know about millions, I don't pretend to know, but vast sums of money were spent on getting a mischief conviction for Chris and Tamira, and then vast sums were spent in unsuccessfully, thank God, in the effort to get to take Chris Barber's truck away. I wouldn't put it past the Crown to appeal that and have another kick at the can and try to go after the truck again. So that's a cultural problem that this woke ideology, this anti-freedom ideology has infected and infested and infiltrated the judiciary, the law schools, the law societies, the colleges of physicians and surgeons, the government, the bureaucrats, the universities. There's a woke ideology that has gone everywhere. So, I wouldn't I mean, the whole prosecution thing, that was not the Liberal Party of Canada pulling any strings. I don't even think that the Ford government was pulling strings on
No.
it. I think you just had a ideologically corrupted Crown prosecution
Yep.
service that thinks it's more important to get a mischief conviction for Chris and Tamara than to put accused rapists and murderers before the court and make sure that those issues get to trial before the 30-month limit expires.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
No,
you look at
And it is millions. It is millions. Now, Chris, I can't remember if it was last spring, in the spring of 2024, I believe it was. Lawrence Greenspan, who's representing me as my legal counsel, told Chris and I that at that time, and now we're coming up on 2 years, and all the stuff that's happened in court since then, the Crown prosecutor had spent north of $10 million on this case.
yes.
Which is very concerning, as you just said. I mean, they're letting some pretty nasty people out on the street, dropping charges, offering absolute discharges to non-Canadian citizens so that it will not affect their immigration process. And also, a lot of these violent cases are getting jordaned out. They're just
Mhm.
running out of time. They don't have the time or the resources. However, the prosecution/persecution of the Freedom Convoy protesters is clearly vindictive, and it's a choice. This is a choice that somebody made sitting in an office to pursue these charges, and the lawfare that we've endured, and the longest mischief trial of all time, really.
Yeah.
Just stop and look at somebody as horrible as the lead Crown prosecutor on our case is Moise Crimgy, downtown Ottawa resident. He had
Yep.
you arrested on a breach charge, a false breach charge that they later released or stayed. You were arrested, flown across the country with 2 homicide investigators. For the first 2 weeks of our trial, we had 4 homicide investigators in our courtroom overseeing this. That Crown prosecutor released 4,200 pages of my cell phone evidence to the media on
Oh
a
my
Thursday
gosh.
of a long weekend, and we couldn't get in to put a closure order on it until the Monday. Those are personal conversations with my wife, my children, my business associates. It had nothing to do with Freedom Convoy, but he released them anyway because he is that vindictive and vicious. It's outrageous to see this
Left them
stuff.
on a flash drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We left them on a flash drive to be handed off to Glenn McGregor, formerly
Aw.
CTV News' senior political correspondent.
We could write a book. Maybe we will.
Well, you should.